Let's turn this down, shall we? Hi, my name is Michael Pierce. I just got off work and I just want to share with you some of the things that I found really interesting about this new Jar Jar Binks sinister Sith warrior theory. I am all for it. I'm a huge supporter of this theory. It makes so much sense. It's stupid. It makes too much sense. I've been going through the Phantom Menace with this in mind, that Jar Jar Binks is indeed a Sith Lord. And some of the evidence, don't get me wrong. The beginning of the movie when Jar Jar Binks is first introduced is painful to watch. It is absolutely painful. His pitch is too high. He's trying too hard to be annoying. It's over the top, flat out. That coupled with the kind of the clutterness getting to Tatooine with Anakin, it's only after we have a chance to relax from Jar Jar Binks that you get to appreciate the subtle things that he does, especially on Tatooine. By far, the Tatooine sequence is the most interesting part of Jar Jar Binks in the Phantom Menace. It lays down the groundwork of what makes him a sinister character. So let's get past Naboo. You can argue, as far as leading him to the city. This is my first of all. Here's my thoughts about Naboo in general. The Jedi being sent to Naboo were supposed to be a pretext to cause conflict. They were there because Emperor Palpatine sent them there to begin with. There was something that they needed the Jedi to accomplish while there, and I believe it was to start conflict, not to resolve it. So the intent was for the Trade Federation to assassinate them as soon as they arrived, thus causing an immediate rift between them and Naboo, who knew the ambassadors were on their way. The murder of 2 Jedi Knights would cause the Naboo, especially Queen Amidala, to side with the idea that there perhaps needed to be a war or some kind of pretext with the Trade Federation to force open conflict, or at least scare them into signing over peace treaties. So with the escape of both Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi to the planet side, enter Jar Jar Binks, who may be at the first intent of running into him. First of all, the meeting. Everyone there's animals for miles running away from these tanks. Jar Jar Binks is walking towards them. It's standing there waiting for the arrival of Qui-Gon Jinn. Basically, as agile as Jar Jar Binks had been, blocks Qui-Gon Jinn's path, and they both tumble to the ground. Moments later, they meet up with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and who suggests going to this city? The Gungan city is none other than Jar Jar Binks. I believe that the intent of that was to get the Jedi out of the way, to make them to where they'd be perhaps imprisoned by them as well, just to bring them out as a factor in general, that hopefully the Gungans would take care of the problem. That failed when Qui-Gon Jinn was able to persuade Boss Nass to allow him to have an escape pod going somewhere else, to go through the planet core to the Naboo. When Qui-Gon Jinn was about to exit, Mr. Tied Up Jar Jar Binks does a slight hand motion and suggests that he goes with them, at which case Qui-Gon Jinn does some more force persuading of himself and Boss Nash, but then all of a sudden they have a Gungan who escorts them to the planet core, who hardly gives any clear directions at all. So Naboo. So everything else from the escape, the blaster fire, the ambush on the droids, I think has been pretty well established. His athleticism, the droids firing at the wrong positions of where Jar Jar Binks was, and then Jar Jar Binks descending from the balcony at a different location or jumping around. That's off screen. So, needless to say, I think that's pretty well established in the current theory of what everyone's talking about. But now let's go to Tatooine. So, let's set this up. Tatooine, you have the Trade Federation, first off, contact Palpatine and say to him that they have no idea where they are, but that a single cruiser was able to get past their blockade, and that perhaps the Queen was on that cruiser. After this, Palpatine says that they have their ways. The Jedi, it's not impossible for the Sith, and he introduces Darth Maul. Darth Maul is to go and find them, basically, at the assassination. Immediately following that scene, not immediately, but following that scene when they land on Tatooine, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi sense a disturbance in the Force. I believe what was happening there was Jar Jar Binks using the Force, using the Force to reach out to Palpatine himself. In a similar way that after the conflict of The Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader sent out a Force telepathic message to Luke as they were parting ways across space, some distance away. It wasn't like galaxies away, but perhaps Force users of certain aptitude and sensitivity can send messages back and forth to each other with some exertion. I believe that exertion is what Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn sensed. So while on Tatooine, there's so much in Tatooine. I don't know if you noticed, but after Padme, who is the real Queen Amidala, is excused from meeting with R2-D2, starts cleaning him, Jar Jar Binks immediately introduces himself to her. And after their planet side, if you believe the whole Force persuasion, he then arranges for Padme to go with them to keep her close. So he identifies Padme as the Queen and then arranges for her to stay near them. Let's see. Gosh, there's so many little interesting things. I don't know how much is really important to go into detail, but let's just talk about Jar Jar as the leak, for instance. So later on, Obi-Wan Kenobi receives a message from the governor of Naboo, who's in captivity from captivity with the Trade Federation. In that message, he says countless people are dying, catastrophic numbers, blah blah blah, kind of this woe story. Immediately, Obi-Wan Kenobi senses this is a trap, this is a trick. You know what I mean? He tells Qui-Gon Jinn, same thing. It's a trick. Send no communication. Both of them said it. No communication. They were onto it. And from what we saw, no communication was sent out. But as soon as that scene ended. As soon as that scene ended, we cut to Coruscant or wherever Palpatine and Darth Maul were at the time, and suddenly they're like, "Oh yeah, they're on Tatooine." Just all of a sudden, they just know they're on Tatooine. They're discussing it openly. We just established that they're trying to a tactic to try to trace where they were, but then the Sith already know by that time where they are because Jar Jar had told them earlier. Now cut to the assassination attempt. Darth Maul comes out of nowhere, fails to kill Qui-Gon Jinn, and as soon as they take off and leave Naboo, it cuts to the Viceroy talking with the governor of Naboo, and in that conversation, the Chancellor and the governor don't know where the Queen is still. That information was never shared with them. So whatever channel Palpatine and Darth Maul had, it was exclusive between them and whatever was happening on Tatooine, which lends more evidence that either there's a massive plot hole in how the information was leaked to Palpatine, where they were located, or a Force user of sufficient power was able to send a message to Palpatine to let them know. So that's one of the many interesting facts I find about the whole Tatooine sequence. Watching it specifically for what Jar Jar's doing. One of my favorites is actually Jar Jar Binks fixing the pod racer before it starts working. You see him look up, look around, and then he goes to work on the pod racer engine. The next scene, and he cranks the engine on, and he's so excited. He's like, "It's working! It's working!" Who is he looking for in that scene? If you go back, you see him look up. On screen, you see Anakin, you see Padme, you see the two droids. The only person that he'd be looking for that's missing from the scene is Qui-Gon Jinn, who's talking to Anakin's mother. He was looking for Qui-Gon to make sure Qui-Gon wasn't seeing what he was about to do. He fixed the pod race to make sure that they win the parts for the engine so they can get off world. Darth Maul was supposed to assassinate the Jedi, and then Jar Jar Binks would leave with Queen Amidala back to Coruscant. That was the intent. Darth Maul messed up that plan, and they continued from the story from there.